So, Sandra, congrats on your performance in the Silent Hour. Your character's very interesting. She's a recovering addict. What did you find most intriguing about this role?
I loved that Ava has layers. She's deaf, yes, but she has so many more layers on top of that. She's a recovering addict. She is finding herself again. She's finding a way to live just as any other person in this world. And I did really appreciate having those layers. I often, we see deaf people as, they're so hero, they're so cool. But Ava is, yes, of course, she's still cool, but she has a darker side to her. It's like, yeah, come on, I want to learn more about her. And so that's where me as Ava, how I thought about how Ava would react and how I would move. And if there's certain situation that comes up, what would I do? I've seen several films and TVs that don't really get what it would be like, how the body would react. And so I kind of deep dived into those, did a lot of research, and kind of picked through and figured out what I wanted to do with Ava. So I just wanted to be present with Ava in those certain times. But yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, that's wonderfully put. And this film has some really great action sequences, and we don't see a ton of deaf actors in action sequences. So how was it filming those scenes and really getting to be fully involved in these crazy stunts?
I loved every moment of it. And I love the action. I love doing anything that is so extreme. You are going to have to pull me away. And they would say, no, I want to make sure it's safe. And then you could jump. And so there was a third part of the stunt double would come in and they would do that part. And I'd say, okay, I'm ready. I want to do this part. I want to do it. And they would say, okay, we have to think about safety and all these, this, that, and the other. And so they would tease me and call like, I would work out basically. I would want to just keep working out. I wanted to be full physical. I wanted to be true to the core. So it felt amazing. And I was really thrilled to have those moments in the film because it's not so often that we see a deaf actor in an action film. But we are starting to see more here and there now. But I don't know if you know about this several years ago. There was a certain company that produced what with a deaf lead, but they picked a hearing actor. And that is just a big no no. That is not appropriate. It's not authentic or right. So the director of that film, I'm not going to mention any names, but the director of that film said, why don't you just cast a deaf person? Because how do they do the action? How do they know? That's why we had to cast a hearing person. So what if we were throwing something at the person and they needed to duck? And so a hearing person would just be able to hear the word duck, and so the actor would just be ready. And the director was like, how do I do that? It's a safety issue. And so of course my response is, we have so many, we've trained deaf people and they have the knowledge. There's a system that we could do and we can use with them. We also have laser pointers that we can cue deaf people with. Maybe turning the laser off, that means go. I also had a device called the buzzer that would vibrate a part of my body that would let me know to go. And there was so many other techniques that we could do. And so I hope that this film, with being an action and a thriller, they can see the possibilities that deaf people can have and do have. We don't want to be limited by our deafness at all. We can. It is important to communicate and work through all of those navigations.
That's really wonderfully put. And Joel's character in the film, he isn't a professional interpreter, so there's room for his American Sign Language to not be perfect. But what did you think of his ability to get a lot of that down for the film?
Before I answer that, I just did want to clarify with the interpreter part. It was really beautiful to be able to have those conversations with the writers and the director about this moment. Like, that's why we did have the character emphasize, and when he says, I'm still learning sign, I am not an interpreter. The interpreter should have a clear, absolute concept of and be able to facilitate 100% communication. So I didn't want the audience to feel like, oh, anybody can just be an interpreter if they know sign. No, especially when a cop is trying to come and interview you, a deaf person. Maybe just what if the interpreter isn't skilled and doesn't get something right? So you have to get a skilled professional interpreter. So those scenes, we were able to figure out what Frank and how he would react. And that we played it off more authentically. Of course, he is not an interpreter, but I'm happy that they were open to that change in the script. So now for Joel and how he was picking up all the sign language, he was able to work with a deaf consultant, and this consultant taught him sign language. His name is Anselmo, and that all happened before the film. And so he was already able to pick up the basics of sign language and already knew it. And then we just hung out together. We chatted all the time. And I'm the type of person that will push you with consent, of course, that to say, hey, come on, I'm going to teach you sign. Let's go through sign language. And he did commit to it. He really tried to figure it out. He wanted to match the facial expressions and everything. And he just made the best connection. It's not often that a hearing actor that needs to learn sign does that, but it was very nice that he did that.
That's really lovely to find out. And you have a lot of really great scenes with Joel in this movie. How would you describe him as a scene partner?
One of the best scene partners to work with. I was already a fan of his. I have to admit, I did fangirl a little bit. I had my moment of, okay, great. Now I'm going to take that out and this is serious now. How are we going to work with each other? So the day that we met, instant connection happened. When you meet people sometimes in life and you're like, all right, we're going to connect right away without even saying hi to each other. We had that vibe already and it was perfect. So when we went through the filming, it was so much fun, especially through the lull moments where we would just share stories with each other. We would talk about anything. And then during the filming, I loved that we had, some of the same ideas and we would talk about that and we would vibe off of each other and we go, yeah, 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 I like that. And we would always feed off of each other. And, of course, we were troublemakers on set when we would do some sort of that stuff, but it was so great. I love to get in trouble with Joel.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for your time, Sandra, and you're really lovely in this film, so congrats.
Oh, thank you.